Hi guys, welcome back to the next video. In this video, we are going to work with basic deployment. Now, before you start the deployment, make sure that you are in this folder, OPD software folder, and then create a folder called deployment. So in which we will be working with all the deployment files. So do remember to open your GitHub page for Computer Trainer 0. So that's the GitHub page where you can actually get all the commands which I'm executing here, as well as the content of the file as well. So here, I'm just going to create a file called deployment-simple.yaml file. So this is a copy paste from that same file which I was talking about in GitHub. So that the file name will be mastering deployments. So within that, you will have all the coding which you require. So here I insert and then I copy paste the items from that GitHub location. And over here, I have the app version 1 deployments, and then you have the HTTP-server deployments. And under that, you have the replica set of 3, and then you have HTTP server, which is basically the selector for matching label. And the label created for this pod is HTTP-server, and within that, you have container. You have only one container here, which is basically a HTTP server container. That's the name of it, and it has the Nginx latest image. So it's not like given any versioning at this moment. It's just the default container, which it should have by default. And then you have the container port number, which is 80. There's no host port number, so don't worry about it at this moment. Save it with this file, and it should be ready for you to, execute. Do remember that when you are creating a specific configuration, you can also use create-f deployment -simple 1.yaml. Do remember that you can also use apply command over here instead of create. Do remember that apply the the apply option, which you're going to use with the scope control, will work both on creating and updating the resources. But when you give create, you can only create a resource which is not there. But when you try to enter create, when there is no resource like that exists, then it's gonna throw up an error. So do remember that apply is much more versatile when compared with create. So just give an enter and you can see the deployment is created. So as we are saying on the deployment, we wanted 3 replica sets, and as you can see on the bottom of the screen, you can see that I have the 3 deployments created, and you can pretty much see that the name of the pod. The name of the pod is going to be the name of your deployment, HTTP server deployment, and then you have the hash value and another hash value. So this hash value represents your replica set, which is the second entry, and the third entry is going to be the hash value for your your pods. So this is a unique characteristic of your pod. So you can see that only this changes over here because the pod name will be unique, and the replica set remains the same because the replica set is the same for all these pods. Now you can also see over here that this is created on worker 1, worker 2, worker 2. So there are 2 specific pods created on this worker 2, and 1 is running on worker 1. And you can see the IP address for them as well. You can use the curl command to confirm if all this is working. So just gonna do a 80, and then you can see that Nginx is working fine. And then 2.6 is working fine, 2.5 working fine. So Nginx running within these pods works perfectly fine. There's no issue with the Nginx which is running. So to understand what we just did, I have created this diagram. So you can see that this is the deployment, replica set, and pods. This is the same exact thing which you saw earlier as well. So the same item over here. So this is more explaining to what happened here. So here we have defined a deployment name as HTTP server deployment. That is the parent name. So that name is gonna be available everywhere. So remember that whatever the name you have given over here will be available everywhere. And you can see the selector app over here, which is HTTP server. and the selector app is going to select the HTTP server as a tag which is applied on top of the pod. So this pod actually has a name called label called HTTP server. You can see that label is the same name which is applied for the pod level, which means that each pod which is going to be created across the replica set will have the same label name. So the HTTP deployment will look for the label name HTTP server, and it basically deploys those pods as part of a replica set. Now the replica set name will have the same deployment name -hash. Hash is basically a unique generated value as a name, which is generated when you create the deployment or when you apply the deployment. The moment you issue that, when the pods gets created by the replica set, the pods will have its own unique name, wherein which it's going to have the name of your deployment, the hash key of your replica set, hash of your own pod unique, hash key of that. So likewise, we have 3 unique hash keys in terms of your pods, because you have 3 different pods and only one set of replica and one set of deployments. So you can have that relationship mapped with these name of your deployment hanging around everywhere. And then you can also see that Nginx is hosted on its own IP address. So disregard the IP address, because I don't know what IP address would be assigned if when I was creating this chart. So disregard that. But it is one IP address and the port number, which we are given as part of the configuration file. I hope it makes sense for you how this pods are getting created and how these names are being aligned to these pods. So you can also run certain commands to understand more about this. For example, you can get kubectl. So remember that we have this command called get pod, which gets you all the pod related stuff. Now, when I talk about the next level from the bottom, so it's pod, replica set, and the deployment, right? So now I need to do replica set. So you can see that there is one replica set which is having the name of the deployment, hyphen a specific hash value, which is a unique value which defines the name of your replica set. And then you have the 3 unique values over here, where the deployment name and the replica set value is all perfect, but you have different unique values over here for each pod. Now, to understand the deployment, you can do deployment, and you can see the available number of deployment. As we have only one deployment, you can see that the name of the deployment is as you are given on the YAML file, and it has 3 out of 3 which is ready, which is basically your replicas. And then update is 3 and available is 3, and it's been 5 minutes 22 seconds it's been running. You can also get some details in this one. First, you can get details of your describe, and then you can actually give the pod name over here, which gives you the definition or the description of a pod. So that's an Nginx pod which has been downloaded, like it is pulled it from the internet, and it has actually started that Nginx image. And its details are also given over here, like IP address, which worker it is running on, what's the label it has been assigned with, what's the hash or template for this hash key for this specific one. And then you can see that the name of it, with the unique character for it. So like those details you can get it. So now you can also describe the replica set as well. So as you know, the replica set name, it's basically this one. So describe rs/ the name of the replica set. So now here you can see that this is the replica set name, and then the selector, and then the label which it needs to select, and then your hash for that pod template hash. And then you can see the desired replica max. Desired is what it needs to have is 3. Max replicas can be 4. This is a default one. We will talk about setting this desired and max later point of time. but this is the maximum replica that it can have is 4. And then the revision is first revision. And all these 3 replicas are running. And you can see that the port number is defined as 80, and there's no host port number assigned to this. And you can see that it has created these 3 replicas. Now, you can also do a description on your deployment / the name of your deployment. So this is going to get you some details about your deployment. Now, the deployment starts with your deployment name, and then what namespace it belongs to. It's a default namespace, and then some default descriptions. And then so there's some rules over here for your replica. It is 3 desired, 3 updated, 3 in total, 3 is available. And then rolling update over here is a strategy. We'll talk more about this later when we go forward in the deployment. So this is the deployment strategy over here. We already spoke on the first video what are the different types of strategies available for you when you're deploying application to Kubernetes. And then minimum ready seconds. So we will talk about that again. Rolling update strategy. We will again talk about it more in detail. But it all talks about this particular strategy and the options available for this strategy. All right. And then you can see some pod related details over here. And you can see the minimum replica available is true, progressing, new replica sets available. All these things we will check in some time when we go further down the line. And then you can see that the scaling replica set, deployment controller scaled replica. So likewise, it tells you the what the sub project is doing for this. So it talks about that messages events over here. That's pretty much I wanted to show you or cover in this video. Thank you so much for watching this video. On the next video, we will talk about scaling up and scaling down your replicas on your deployment. Thanks again. I'll see you on the next one.